Good evening.
How many of you are at your first men's night in the parish? Raise your hand. Okay, good. Well, welcome. Good to have you, especially you. Good to have you. I wanted to talk a little bit first about how I got here. This past weekend, my wife and I gave a retreat, a marriage retreat for about 67 couples in the Trenton Diocese of New Jersey. And we were on the docket to do that, and I get a call from Father James out of the blue. Didn't know who Father James was, didn't know anything. He goes, "Hey, I heard you're going to be out in the area. How about coming over and doing a men's night on a Monday night? You should be able to work that. You'll be done on the weekend." The guy should have been a salesman, really. I mean, you'll be done on the weekend. You can still make it on Monday. We can get you home by Tuesday morning. I mean, and I gave him a little indication that it might work, and he was on me like stink on a skunk. He gave me the full court press and got me here, so I'm grateful. He's really quite a guy, and it was my delight to spend time today with Father Tony and Father Ed. You guys really have some wonderful priests here in the parish. You're really blessed very much. In doing the retreat this weekend, I was talking to the men. We had time with, separating them a little bit. And I gave the men some practical advice, and they thought that I should give you the same advice so that at least you can leave tonight with something that's very useful. So I'll start with something useful right from the beginning, okay? You game? All right. Your wives, how many of you are married? Raise your hands. Okay? And for those of you who are going to be married someday, this is good advice for you. Maybe you already know this, especially the older gentlemen among us, that, your wives have a point system of kind of scoring, giving you plus and minuses, giving you points for doing things that they like, and taking away points for things that you do that they don't like. Did you know that was the case? For example, like if you get up in the morning and she's getting herself ready for the day, and while she's getting ready for the day, you make the bed, you score 10 points, right? You leave the decorative pillows on the floor, you only get 5 points. Get that? All right. You decide you go out to a party and your wife, you decide, you know what, I'm going to stay by my wife's side all night long. You stay by her side all night, you get 15 points. Halfway through the night, you decide to break off and spend some time with an old college buddy. Start to lose a couple of points. Your college buddy's name is Tina, you are in negative points. All right? It's helpful, isn't it? Your wife asks you, "How do I look in this dress?" You say, "You look beautiful, honey." You gain some points, right? If she turns to you and says, "Do I look fat in this dress?" and you pause for even a second, brothers, you lose 20 points. So picking up on those little pieces of information are pretty helpful. Gaining points, taking points. What I want to do tonight is to help you understand something that I believe the Holy Father John Paul II and Pope Benedict XVI have picked up. Something a word they spoke directly to you and to me. And if we take their word to heart, it'll not only change our lives, but it will change the course of the life of the church in this diocese, and if more men do it across the country, across our country. Before I do that, I want to just say a little bit about the ministry we're a part of, Crossing the Goal. How many have you ever seen the show Choices We Face? Raise your hands, I'm just curious, okay? A few. It's a television show that's on weekly on EWTN. How many have seen anything from Crossing the Goal? Okay, good. We also have 2 daily radio shows. Sister Ann Shields does a show, Food for the Journey, where she reflects on the daily readings. I do a show called Fire in the Earth. These are 2 15-minute radio shows. You can listen to them on our website as well if you don't get the station out here. We're currently working in about 30 countries around the world: Eastern Europe, Africa, Asia, the Middle East, working with the church on the ground, responding to the new evangelization, working with bishops, priests, and lay people. We feel in our hearts the word that Pope John Paul II said, that we're at the dawning of a new missionary age for the life of the church, he said. He said, the hour of the laity has struck. The hour of the laity has struck. That is, the laity not working in complementarity with the clergy, responding to the grace of the Holy Spirit in our time, calling us to respond to the challenges of our time. Here's some missions we do to Rwanda, Vietnam, Papua New Guinea, and China. It's very exciting what's happening in the church in the global south, whether Asia, Latin America, South America, India. The church is growing like wildfire. Every place, it's funny, every place the church is being sort of stomped out, or the church in some ways being oppressed, the church grows. It's very interesting how that happens. The dynamic, because people, I think, are forced. One of the most exciting places in the world to be with Catholics is in China. The faith and the passion that they have and the commitment that they're making to live their faith and the sacrifices they're making are extraordinary. So it's a real privilege to be with them. I said, tonight I want to talk about something that Jesus said, I have come to cast fire on the earth. What is that fire, do you think, that Jesus said he came to cast on the earth? If you could name it, what do you think it is? I came to cast fire on the earth.
His word.
His word? The Holy Spirit. He came to cast, in some ways, you could summarize all that Jesus did. His death on his passion, his teaching, his life, and his death on the cross, all of it was for one purpose. Was so he could transmit to you and me the dynamic fire and love that was in his own life and in his own heart. Jesus said, the Spirit of the Lord has anointed me at the beginning of his ministry when he was baptized to preach good news to the poor and to bring liberty to captives, to the human race. Jesus said to the apostles that he came to give them his Spirit. And he said, when I give you my Spirit, you will receive power in that gift. And that gift of the Spirit, it goes to every single baptized human being on the face of the earth. That's what baptism is. It's the transmission of the life that's in the resurrected humanity of Jesus Christ to you and me. That's what I want to talk about. Pope John Paul II pointed to that with great passion. So we're going to take the words of the Holy Father. I'm going to do something a little different tonight. I'm going to try to take the words of the Holy Father, let you see them, and let him talk to you. Something's coming up May 1st. What's happening May 1st in the church? Anybody know? The beatification of John Paul II. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have heard that was coming? I'm just curious, okay? The beatification of John Paul II. The Lord is raising him up again for us to pay attention, and to pay attention to what he said to us. And he said some things that were deep within his heart that if the church takes to heart, the church is going to have the antidote she needs to face the challenges of our time. One of the things the Holy Father said he's called to do as Vicar of Christ is to do two things for us. To read the signs of the times and to interpret for us what the Spirit is saying to the church. So that's what we want to do. How did John Paul II and Pope Benedict XVI, as he found him, how are they reading the signs of the times that we're living in? And then how are they hearing the work and the voice of the Holy Spirit leading us to respond to the Spirit's work to face the challenges of the times? John Paul II says, today the faith of many is sorely tested and is frequently stifled and dies. Pope Paul XVI said, he talked about, today there are a very large number of baptized people who for the most part have not formally renounced their baptism, but who are entirely indifferent to it and not living in accordance with it. Pope Benedict XVI, he says, we are witnessing a sort of mass apostasy. The number of the baptized persons is decreasing drastically. There he's talking mainly about Europe, but he's recognizing it happening in broader circles. Pope Benedict recently said, in our days, in vast areas of the world, the faith is dying out like a flame which no longer has fuel. Remember the first line of the passage that I gave to you? Jesus said, I've come to cast fire upon the earth. Pope Benedict says, he looked at the landscape, especially in the first world, he said, what we're seeing is that the flame of faith seems to be going out, like a flame that no longer has fuel. He went on to say, the real problem at this moment in our history is that God is disappearing from the human horizon. And within the dimming of the light which comes from God, humanity is losing its bearings with increasingly evident and destructive effects. Now let me ask you, do any of you see what he's talking about in your life in any way around you, in the life of the church? Does it feel like we're kind of losing our bearings on some really fundamental things that were just common sense in the past? And that within the church itself, people just seem to be drifting away and deciding against the church. And even here, I was just in Trenton, I said this weekend, the bishop said in Trenton right now, only 18% of the baptized are going to church on a regular basis in the diocese. This is really kind of staggering. There's a way in which somehow we're being affected, and the Holy Father's making a point. Listen to what he's saying. He's trying to help you and I understand. We ask the question, what's going on? Why is this happening? Lots of people have lots of different reasons for it. The deepest, most fundamental reason is this, that God is being pushed from the horizons of humanity. And more people are saying, we want a world that's free from the imposition of religion. Religion is the source of the world's problems. In order for me to be free, I have to be the one who determines for my own life what's true. I determine what's true. I determine what's good. I determine the meaning of my own life. I will design my own life. I will craft the meaning of my life. I will determine what marriage is and what marriage isn't. I will determine when life begins and when it doesn't begin. I'm the master of my own destiny. That's the spirit of the age, and that's what they're pointing to. And this is a battle, spiritual battle. St. Paul tells us the battle we're really fighting is not, my next door neighbor or a weak priest or a weak this. What